whereas LinkedIn has slightly lower engagement. Similarly, YouTube has slightly lower engagement, but is a bit less academic. And what we mean by that is a bit less formal. Instagram and Snapchat, on the other hand, like the stories in the main feed, are much less academic, but do tend to have more engagement, especially like the Instagram stories and Instagram main feed as well. So it's important to think about what you want to accomplish when you're using these platforms, what your reach is, and kind of the tone that you set when creating the content that you have. So going back to rules and regulations, on a more serious note, it's not just elections that have rules, and of course you should all be following the elections guidelines and regulations when you do anything. You are now marketing yourself for a position. So online slander, defamation, inappropriate or offensive language is monitored by us at the SU and ARU under the online media regulations, and on a wider level, copyright infringement is a big one. So do make sure that you carefully check what you're posting. If it is misinformation, you could be reprimanded for slander, for example. If it is a picture from Google, you could be caught for copyright. Don't worry though, there's lots of websites that are copyright free, or lots of, images that you can find that are copyright free, for example. Websites like Pexels and Unsplash, which are linked here, are great resources for that. But we would really recommend that you create your own content where possible. Take pictures of yourself and your friends, get pictures with students when you go out and campaign. That's going to make people have a personal investment in what you're posting, and get them to think about you in a more like kind of a friendly and closer outlook, so to speak. Do remember, always be respectful, always be kind when you're doing your social media. You can check the social media guidance on the website for best behavior online. You don't want to get into trouble with the DRO or anything for sort of going against the election regulations, I should say. It's important to remember to keep your personal views separate to your campaign views as well. And also to be inclusive. We have about 20,000 plus students between Cambridge, Chelmsford, and Peterborough. You're not just trying to reach the students on your own campus necessarily, especially if you're a full-time officer candidate. If you're a part-time candidate, though, it's not just the students on your course that you're trying to get to run for you on your campus. It's the students across the entire campus and everything. So do have to think about that. And always remember, when you're addressing an audience who may live in different areas or lives or areas to you, to be considerate, inclusive, and accessible in your content. And finally, get creative. So it's important to think about like the things that you've seen online that you thought that really creative and everything. For example, you can do things like create a backgroundless GIF and upload it to Giphy to use it on Instagram stories. You can kind of think behind the scenes about like why you are the best candidate and kind of share that and explain that to voters. If you go in the packet as well, as I mentioned on the site, there's a piece of paper in there that describes a personalized creative comms plan. And if you've considered everything from audience platforms to rules to creative, then you are set up for a really interesting social media campaign during this election. So some final tips: be shameless, tag your friends, classmates, in the post that we put up from the SU. Be creative. So think about the content that you're making, think about the content you like, and then recreate it in your own sort of way. Do be respectful, as we mentioned, and be kind to others. And again, you don't need to set up new accounts for everything, but just have to think about utilizing the accounts that you do have the best way possible. So thank you all very much for joining this training on social media campaigning in the election 2020. I wish you all the best of luck with your campaigns. And again, if you have any questions, you feel free to submit those on the website under the Candidates Hub.